Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Otsego City Council meeting. Tonight is Monday, February 13th. Audra, can you have the record show that our city attorney, city planner, city engineer are present? Councilmember Dunlap is present. Councilmember Dunlap is present. Councilmember Gady is absent. Councilmember Dahl is present. Councilmember Moores is present, along with our assistant city administrator and our administrator. At this time, I would like you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first item of business this evening is our open forum. This is the portion of the meeting where you can come to the podium, state your name and address, and limit comments to 5 minutes or less. Would anyone like to speak at this time?
Open forum, correct?
Correct.
This is Mark Valerius, 13701 70th Street, Northeast, Otsego. I had been here a couple weeks ago and we had discussed a couple things or asked a couple things about number one, the lighting on our full moon water tower over there. And also I had asked for the council to look into the billing on the electrical side of it that is coming from right Hennepin, to see if there's anything that had been checked on that or not. So
I'll turn this over. Would be lighting, Adam would be the billing. So,
Mayor, we have a contractor on board to take 1/3 of the lights out of production, so that it'll change the amount of lumens to the water tower by 1/3. So it'll be a reduction.
do we know when that's going to take effect?
I don't know. I know that we've got a local contractor as a boom truck's going to be up there and remove.
So
those
there's not
lights.
just a dial or something they can.
No, it's
Don't
not
cut
as easy.
bandwidth?
We looked at we wish these LEDs had the dimmable feature to them, but they do not.
They do not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor,
yes, Jeff?
I've driven by there today. It looks like there are 2 lights per stand instead of the old 3. So it looks like they've taken care of it already.
Okay, it's already done.
Okay. I fish for big walleyes on a full moon, so it makes me want to go fishing all the time with that thing going.
Okay, Adam.
Thank you, Mayor. The city is still coordinating. There are 4 utility companies that provide electric and gas service within the city. And so we are still coordinating individually with each of them on the billings of the franchise fees.
Is there a time set on that, or is that going to take a month or 2,
It's
3?
kind of at the
4?
mercy of when they respond to city staff, sir.
Right.
Anything I can do to help? Go over and
Probably-
talk to Right Hennepin. I've been there enough times already. I'll go talk to him.
We're doing what we can, sir.
Okay, no problem. And then also, getting back to Ron on the lighting over there, did they installed cameras on there now that I see? When I went by today, it looked like there was a couple of cameras on those posts out there. We got cameras running out there now?
I don't believe so. I think it has, we have 1 camera.
No, Mayor, we do have security systems installed at each of our water towers.
So I can go out there and make a smiley face and you'll see me all the time?
We will.
Obviously, the concern would be obviously if someone were to tamper with
Okay,
her.
I just thought I'd question that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? All right, we will close the open forum and move to item 2 to consider our agenda for approval. Does anyone have anything that they would add or like to delete at this time? Okay, a motion would be in order.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Ryan?
I move to approve the agenda as written.
My second.
Okay, motion by Ryan, seconded by Jeff. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item 3 is our consent agenda.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Ryan.
I do have a correction.
Okay.
For my time sheet, I would like to remove the 121 event that I have on there, the
Okay.
town hall.
Okay.
I have been corrected that that is not something that should be on there. I'm sorry, it's my first one, so that won't happen again. My apologies.
All right, Audrey, you have the correction noted?
I do, thank you.
Okay.
With that, I will move I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Ryan, seconded by Brittany. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to item 4.1, the 2023 street renewal project. I'm going to turn this over to Ron.
Thank you, Mayor. We did hold an open house last Wednesday. Looks like there's a few people in the audience that were in attendance to that, but it's a similar crowd for that portion of it. This is the public hearing for the 2023 street renewal. And it's in the developments of Otsego Acres First and Second Edition, Vassar Groves Estates First and Second Edition, Deerfield Acres and Hidden Valley. And we're also doing an overlay on Otsego Industrial Park in the most southwestern portion of the city. So the projects, Otsego's First and Second Edition, that's just west of Odine, north of 85th Street. And we have 53 properties that are benefiting from that and would be assessed. There are a few exempt parcels because they're non-buildable. And there's the white parcels that would be part of this development that are on the edges of this. Their driveways do not go to a street that's being improved. So then the next slide shows Vassar Grove Estates First and Second Edition. There's 89 benefiting properties. Again, there's a couple of exempt properties that are unbuildable, and the white properties on the edge, the driveways go to streets that are not being completed as part of this project. Odine Avenue in this case is just to the east of that development, and 85th Street's just to the north of that development. And then Deerfield Hidden Valley, that's a little further south than Vassar Oak Groves, and that's again just to the east of Odine. And there are 35 benefiting properties and one exempt property in that parcel, in that area. So if this project goes forward, after we complete it, there would be the reconstruction going on in 2023. 2 years later, we come back, we do a fog seal. That's a thin layer of oil. That's to keep the surface of the pavement from getting too rough early, keeps the fines in it, seals some of the minor cracks. Then 7 years after we've reconstructed it, you'll get a seal coat. That's a little thicker layer of oil with some rock with it. And then we put a fog seal on top of that to hold that rock in. And that again lengthens the life of the road and gives a good surface for the traffic. And then 17 years afterwards, we do a micro surface, which is a 3/8 inch thick pavement that again fills the cracks and can fill some imperfections within the pavement. And that usually lasts at least another 10 years. So before we'd be back there for an overlay, you're looking at 27 years. And then an overlay would occur, and then that would bring you out another 12, 14 years. So you're looking at a life cycle of about 50 years. Now, as we go through this project, you'll see that the first go around has been about 50 years. So out there today, Otsego Acres First and Second Editions, they were paved in 1982. So that's 41 years ago. And then we did an overlay in 1999, which was 24 years ago. So the width of the roads on all these are somewhere between 21 and 23. That's for all these developments. And what you do, it's called a pavement condition index every year throughout the city. And that way we know which streets are becoming the worst, and then those move up or down the scale when we want to reconstruct those. And Otsego Acres first and second edition, they're some of the worst in the city. It's a 48 out of 100. So that's why this project is being brought forward tonight. If you've been out there, there's a lot of cracking, thermal cracking, block cracking, alligator cracking, and a lot of patches. Same goes with both these other areas, Vassar Oak Grove Estates first and second, and Deerfield Acres and Hidden Valley. Same thing, it's a little bit older, 1980. Again, we overlaid it in 1999. About the same width of streets and about the same pavement condition index. And about the same, just how it looks with all the cracking and with the patching. So here's some photos of some of the areas. This would be probably Vassar Oak Grove Estates. And Odell, I'm not sure. I think that's also probably Vassar Oak Grove Estates in that area. And then this would be further north, further north in Otsego Acres, 88th Street. You can see all the patches that have occurred in all these projects to keep those roads passable. So what we're planning to do is we're going to reclaim the road, which is bring a large piece of machinery out there that grinds the asphalt on the surface and mixes it with the gravel underneath. If there's some centerline culverts out there, we're going to replace them because again, it's already 50 years old and we want those culverts to last another 50 years without having to rip up your new street. So after they packed that gravel back down and reshaped it, you'll still have all the strength that was with that pavement before. Now we're going to add 3.5 inches of new asphalt on top of that. So it will bring the elevation of the street up 3.5 to 4 inches higher. We will have to go into some driveways and mill to make that match as smooth as possible. If you do have a concrete driveway, we'll saw cut it to the nearest joint and then re-pour that to match the street. Gravel driveways are a little easier. We just add some gravel to bring that elevation up to the new road. We don't expect a lot of landscaping for this project because we're strictly working on the street, redoing the street, putting the new pavement on, and then putting a small shoulder on either side of it. So these are typical sections as if you cut the road like you're slicing bread. So existing right now, again, it's got about a 3.5 inches of asphalt on it with 6 inches of class 5 below it. That gives you how we figure out strength of streets, a gravel equivalency of about 12. And then the proposed section, we're turning that existing asphalt, mixing it with the gravel below, and then adding another 3.5 inches of asphalt. So you're saving all that strength by leaving it on site, and you're gaining about 50% strength with the gravel equivalency here of 18. So if the project does move forward, right now we've brought the feasibility report to the council back in January. We held that open house last week on Wednesday. And then we're holding the public hearing here tonight. And then the council has the option to authorize plans and specs tonight. And then if they do have us go forward, we'll bring back approved plans and specs for them to approve. And then they'll authorize us to advertise for bids. We would open May 3rd, award. The council would have the option to award the contract May 8th. And then we'd start sometime in June with the project completion August 18th so that we're completed prior to school starting again. And then in September, we'll hold an assessment hearing. So the assessment policy, it changed a few years ago. It used to be 50% to the residents and 50% to the city. Now it's a set rate of $1,092 per lot. So every lot gets the same assessment, but it cannot exceed 20% of the total project cost. So we check that also. The reclaim project total on here is 1.126. There's our estimate. Out of that, $193,284 would be assessed to the 177 properties that we showed you earlier. We expect it's going to be a 10-year amortization, and the interest rate will be determined at the time of the assessment. So a lot of this comes out of the pavement management fund, which the city uses city taxes to complete that. So again, almost $1 million of this is coming through everyone's taxes throughout the city. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the mayor and open the public hearing.
Perfect. Thank you, Ron. All right, at this time, as Ron said, we will open the public hearing. This is where you can come to the podium, state your name and address, and then you can make comments regarding this project. So this time we will open the public hearing.
Marv Valerius, 13701 70th Street Northeast, Otsego. A few years ago, we had, I talked to a couple that had sold some property out there. And they were looking at doing they had to do a new septic system in their house. And they found out that through a lot of research that Wright County actually offers programs out there with small interest rates to reduce some of their work on their house. No, it was for their septic system is what it was. I think it was like 1.9% interest. This was probably 5-6 years ago. So I don't know if Wright County still does that. You're talking about fixing roads here for everybody. If those people are allowed to apply for something like that for the residents to help save them some money.
And this is in, so you're
This was through Wright County. It was a program that they had going.
Adam.
Mayor, I'm not super familiar with the program, but they do offer an assessment program where they can help finance, whether it's, a septic system rebuild
Or if it's for roads.
project. They do provide some financing tools similar to an assessment on a street project. They do an assessment on that type of work, but I'm not sure that's applicable to this specific project, but they do have a program out there for residents.
Yeah, I know things change, every 5 years, you're gonna run into different programs.
That program's specific to the septic ordinance because that's part of the septic management ordinance that Wright County has adopted.
Okay,
Property owners are required when they sell their property to bring the septic up to current code. So to offset that cost, this county has programs to ensure that proper septic systems. The two are completely different from a city street project versus the septic ordinance. So
So seeing it's still a Wright County street,
this
is that
a city
something,
street.
these are city streets.
or city streets? But it's still within the city, so they don't have, has anybody checked on new programs out there to see if there is something available to help out the taxpayers?
I'm not sure.
Give a
This
discount?
is regarding the street project for
Street
these.
project only, yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
street
like I said,
project only.
every 5 years, who knows, 2-3 years, things change. So maybe Wright County come out with a new program with all the new federal incentives out there. This might be something to look into, save the taxpayers some money if we can get a little lower interest or what's going on out there. So just asking to see if anybody was aware of that.
We will note it. And obviously as residents, they should try to contact Wright County to see if there's also programs for them.
Yes, I do work with a few people in Otsego residents, so trying to keep things up for them if I can.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments regarding street project?
My name is Gerard Zachman, 6194 Oakwood Avenue Northeast, Otsego. A couple years ago, I believe it's 5 years ago on Packard Avenue, had to be redone, completely reground, just like you're proposing here. I've got 2 parcels on the south end of it. I got charged, I believe, either $7,000 or $7,500 per parcel. So roughly $14,000. I was wondering why we were charged so much, and now 4 or 5 years later, they're getting by for $1,100. I'd like an explanation on why that is. Thank you.
Let's take that on.
I can take a stab at it. Mayor, a few years ago, the city council revised the assessment policy, as Ron mentioned in his presentation. previous assessments for road improvement work was based on 50% of the project cost and then divided out each to those benefiting properties. So in your case, if your assessment was what it says that you paid, then that's how it was determined. 2 years ago, the council revised the assessment policy with the implementation of franchise fees to reduce that special assessment, with franchise fees providing the difference from the old assessment policy to the new.
Any other comments regarding the street project?
Shari Nordquist, 8190 Packard Northeast. I'm just wondering, being as I didn't go to the open house or wasn't able to, can I get a copy of the information you just presented?
Mayor, it's exactly the same slideshow. The people that came to that got to see it twice, so.
I know, but
Can
can
she
I
get a copy is what
copy?
she's asking.
Yeah, we can
paper
send you a
copy?
copy of the presentation.
Okay, and then if you're doing, it said on there something about possibly 5 feet into the, from the edge of the road.
Yeah, it depends on how steep your driveway is. The
Okay.
steeper it is, the longer we have to go
Yes.
back to make the match and make sure that it's not too much of a adjustment between where the finished street level is and you're matching your driveway.
Okay, and our previous little comment about the culvert, then, if there's things like that in there, what do you?
Sure,
do
we're
with
doing
that?
the center line culverts.
What do
but
you do that?
The
What-
driveway culverts are considered private and they're,
I know, but if you're covering over that, or if you're going into that, what do you do about that? What do you do about
we'll be
those
just
that
on the
need?
surface. We won't be going down to the culvert underneath.
Okay, mine's right under there. It's this much under the road.
Again, we're only touching the asphalt. I think we're going 1.5 inches. Usually mill 1.5 inches down, and so unlikely that we would hit your culvert, and we'd have to either be right on top of your culvert. We can also go a little bit past your culvert to miss it, or we can go earlier than your culvert to miss it, if it's that close to surface. I mean, I can meet with you afterwards if
Thank
you'd
you.
like, or I can take I think we have your
Okay,
phone
yeah,
number over there.
yeah.
We could talk some more about it. and
Okay,
We'll have a opportunity to discuss it while the project, if it gets approved. And then we'll have a construction observer out there too.
all right, thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
Ms. Nordquist, would you like the copy of the slides to be mailed to you?
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments? One more time, any more comments? Right, we will close the public hearing and bring it back up to council for consideration on the project. Any questions for council for staff?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I believe what you were just saying, is we removed some properties from the list.
Right.
From the list that we saw last meeting. I think there were 3 properties that were removed.
Correct.
So the 2 that we discussed had they were sort of, what did you call unbuildable?
Yeah, they
Land.
were narrower lots that had wetlands.
Okay, what was the reason for the 3rd one being removed?
The 3rd one is shown here in Vassar Oak Grove. Can we go back to Otsego Acres? The 2 right there were shown exempt. And then, so it's in that inside corner of 90th and O'Brien.
Mhm.
And there's been, that property owner has been trying to sell that property as a buildable lot and had wetland delineation done on it. And from that wetland delineation, Dan and I have looked at that. And when we have calls from potential builders on it, we just point out that there's not enough land with setbacks to put in a septic system and a house.
Okay, so that land is sort of locked in its current position for the
Correct.
most part.
Mayor, that land is essentially unbuildable because of wetlands.
Is that the status of unimprovable land? Is that what I'm thinking of? Or is that unimproved land?
I believe that's just unimproved under
Okay.
the assessor's classification, so.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? As Ron said, I was in attendance last week. We had 14 residents here. Ron was able to talk with them individually after the slide presentation. There were quite a few that had kind of the questions regarding the driveways and how that came back onto their property. Were concerned with the slopes and then also with what the edge of the roads were.
Correct.
But that was kind of the main concerns, it seemed, is that,
And a one hill coming down, I think it was
yes.
Odell or something.
It was actually then, if you switch forward to Vassar, it was, which was good that the residents were in attendance. It was in regards to seeing about shaving down.
But plus, go to
Can you
Vassar
go
Grove.
one forward right here?
Yeah, Ogre.
On Ogren coming out to 85th, they had some concerns, starting around that 8440, 8439, that there is a large kind of hill that comes out that goes into concrete where the path crosses and that it kind of shoots them out.
Yeah, they're worried that another 4.5 inches would increase. the
Would
hill.
increase it. So you, we're going to go out there and then also note that with the contractor, correct?
Correct.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Brittany.
do we anticipate running any issues with residents getting to their houses or into their driveways, their homes? They'll be parking on the street at certain times. They'll be able to move.
Yeah,
into the
I did talk about that at the open house, but correct. So when we grind up the road, it's basically a gravel road, so they can use it just as they had before. A little dustier. We'll try to do some dust control if it's hot and dry, water it to keep that dust down. But throughout the process, everyone will be able to access their homes, access their mailboxes, etc.
Thank you.
And you also shared with them that you will have a staff member contact information. So if there are issues with a mailbox that gets taken out or questions on site during the project, that
Once we hold a pre-construction meeting, we get the dates from the contractor when they're going to start. What the process is. So we send out a notice to everybody along the project, just like you were noticed for tonight. And we'll give those dates. And with that, I think my number will be in there, my name and number, and also the resident construction observer. And they're out on the site daily. So if you have a question, they'll be able to come and stop and visit with you and hopefully get that rectified.
Other questions or comments? No other questions and a motion for a resolution?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Jeff.
I can make a motion.
Okay.
Motion to approve resolution 2023-10, ordering preparation of plans and specifications for the 2023 street renewal project.
Is there a second? Motion by Jeff, seconded by Brittany. Is there any discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Ryan,
I would move to amend the resolution, striking item 1, such that the work could be done without charging special assessments.
so that would be changing what we have in place. Is that what you're? That has, I believe that's kind of a bigger discussion. I mean, I'm just throwing that out as we're talking about it, since we do have this in place that residents are being charged something, and that was a large discussion that the benefiting property should have to pay for something that's in front of their home. Feel others can feel free to jump in on that, but that when a project is done in front of their home, there's charged $1,092. We have also agreed to keep that at the cap of $1,092.
That was to make sure everybody, when you get your new street redone, everybody had some money into their new street. So that everybody had their percentage in it and everybody had ownership for that street renewal.
They're accessing it nearly every day and using it to move to and from.
And Jeff would have to, and Brittany would have to agree to their
Second.
amendment to it, which
I
they would
do
have to
not-
agree to change what you had.
So I would just need a second so we could discuss.
Yes,
I feel comfortable where it's at. I think we've discussed it previously, so I will not, I'm not gonna second that at this time.
Well, I think with that, I would just say that I can't support the resolution as it's written then. I just feel strongly that increasing pay or the property taxes that folks would have to pay their tax payment by 100 or 200% just isn't something we should be doing. I think if we could work together to find an alternate solution here, but that's just a pill I can't swallow. So I'm going to be voting no on the resolution.
Adam,
Mayor, just for clarification, I'm not following item one having anything to do with the assessment.
Yeah, my understanding is that since it references the assessment in there, that if we struck that the work could still be done without charging special assessments, but I'm new here, so.
that
Well,
would be,
The resolution is ordering preparation of plans and
preparation.
specifications, nothing to do with an assessment.
Yes, but so my thought process is item one was based on the feasibility report,
Correct.
which includes the assessments.
It provides the opportunity for the city council to continue down the path of using special assessments as a revenue source. It does not put that into stone at this point in time.
Sure. I would just, I made my motion, I guess.
Thank you.
all right, we have a motion on the table from Jeff and Brittany. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Point of order.
Mayor,
Madam Mayor, I believe it requires a 4/5 vote.
Since there are,
this project is not able to move to the next step of preparing plans and specifications at this point in time.
Okay.
Which puts this project at risk for this year.
so as residents in the audience, as you just heard, this project potentially will not be able to be going forward because we have a council member that's not in agreement that it should be that there should be the 1092 assessment. Am I saying that
That's fair.
correctly? And as Adam said, if this does not move forward, potentially it puts it at risk for not being done this year. So. And Ryan, as to your points, and I guess I will echo that we have a lot of residents that were assuming this project was going to be done. And that we had not one person at the open house or even this evening that had any comments in regards to being charged 1092. You heard just earlier a resident that was charged 50% for a project just a few years ago. And so that's what the franchise fees and the 1092 was to cover, is when projects happen in front of residents' homes that they are being charged something.
I understand the logic. I don't think it's right. I still think the work needs to be done. Like I said, I
But you're
just think
putting it at risk to not be done this year.
I don't think I am, but
Adam,
Dave, what are options for continuing to move? I mean, can you explain what options are on the table for the council to consider?
Well, I think the fundamental issue is the city has an assessment policy. If you just exempt this one project from the assessment policy, I mean, first of all, that'd be in violation of policy, and second of all, it'd be, I mean, you're talking about a fundamental change in the assessment policy, so you would have to discuss that and implement that, I think, before you could just exempt this one project. Otherwise, you'd be in violation of the policy and you'd have lack of uniformity for everyone else who
Right.
potentially could be charged assessments.
Am I correct in the assessment policy says we can charge that is determined at the time that the city council makes the decision. It could be $0.
It could be $0. The current policy dictates a uniform assessment. So that would, anything else would be in violation of the policy unless it were, if you had to reduce it based on special benefit test or other factors. That would be required, but otherwise, my understanding is the current policy is a flat assessment for every parcel on the project.
Of $0, I'd be fine with.
But that.
Right, that's
You
not,
would violate
that's not
the
the
policy
current
that we
policy.
voted in
That's not the
last
current
year.
policy, is what our
Current policy is $1,092.
So everybody has ownership. That was the whole, when we all discussed our three options, that was the one option to make sure everyone on a street in Otsego owned a piece when they had their roads redone instead of the 0.
Right. Statute says.
That ownership part was the key. When former council member Darkenwald mentioned that, he said, it's best to have everybody have ownership of their road. That way that's, I mean, technically it's theirs over the 10-year span. But the options we were also worded, everything else came out. We didn't want a $7,000 deal over 10 years. We wanted $1,000 or $100 a year for 10 years. So everything is easier. Plus you had ownership, but that's what we voted on and how we voted on it. And that's how the conclusion became what we
Right.
voted on.
Yeah, like I said, I understand the reasoning.
Mhm.
Most of these folks, 91% of these folks are not paying $1,000 right now in their property taxes. So to double their property taxes or their tax payment is just a bridge too far for me.
They can choose to pay over 10 years though, Ryan.
And
So
they're
Right.
or
taking
they
on
can-
additional payments if they do.
And they, and,
That is about $130 per year.
or
So
they
that-
can choose to pay it off before December, which a lot of residents did ask that they had said, how are we able to pay this ahead of time potentially?
Mhm.
So they weren't assessed any interest on the project that was in front of their home.
My goal would to be to get this to come out of the general fund, but I think we need to have a discussion about that.
And I guess I can agree that we can have a discussion on it, but we are putting risk of all these residents not getting a road that we've had them come multiple times saying that they have issues with their road. And now these construction schedules become very tight. And as you
When-
said, you're the new person here. And so we're helping to kind of direct you on that
When-
if we miss the bid on this, then this backs it up even later. And we always try to get it done in the summer so that kids can go to school, that the buses can run.
I will give you another elephant in the room, and that is the only reason that you're pointing the finger at me
Oh, I'm not pointing
no.
the finger at you. I'm just,
is because we have a council member who is absent, and that makes the 4/5 vote different.
When then can we have this bring up to council again? So we have,
we could
when
have
we
it
have file 5, or is that
in
it?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? So the next meeting, we can bring it up.
Yeah, I would suggest then you just remove it from the agenda for tonight and continue it to a future hearing.
How do we do that? Do we make a motion for that?
There's already been a vote on the record.
My understanding is
Yeah.
my understanding is it can be brought up again with another 4/5 vote.
Well, there'd have to be some kind of motion. There has been a vote on the record. There'd have to be some kind of motion to reconsider in the future.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Jeff.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes,
Be the same thing, right?
you would make a motion to reconsider at the next meeting.
Yeah, I don't think you can do the same.
Yeah, it can't be done now.
We already made.
Okay,
Say something.
Unfortunately, the public hearing has closed for this. And I know that puts you guys in a hard position because obviously,
Madam Mayor, I move to allow them to speak.
The public hearing has already ended.
is there
It
a
doesn't
second?
matter. We can allow them to speak.
I second. I think that.
Dave, am I able to, I mean,
Well, the public hearing is already closed. I mean, there's no reason to allow them to speak at this point. I mean, I'm not against them speaking. I don't think anybody is,
Right.
but that's not procedurally how you handle these
That's
matters.
why I'm looking to you because we've never had this happen in a sense. So, unfortunately, we can't let you speak. I'm gonna continue to follow how we should be running the meeting. And,
Here's the way I feel.
oh, sorry.
Every person here that's on that board right there, drive on 89th Street every day
I agree.
and then come back and say, no, we don't need the street. So bad.
Yeah, no,
That's the way I feel.
I agree. All right, Dave, I'm looking to you. So how can we proceed to get this put on the next council agenda? As you said, there is already a vote in place. What can we do? Obviously, there's additional costs then if we have to send out stuff to all of the residents.
Right, so the vote has taken place. I don't think you can place it formally on the agenda, but I think you could have a motion on at a future time for reconsideration of this previous item. So if it would have to be brought by the side that prevailed, which I guess in this case, the prevailing side would be it failed for lack of a super majority. So I guess the prevailing side would be the the lack of super majority. So I think it could be brought back on a motion to reconsider at a future hearing.
Can I use those words? Make a motion to bring it back for future consideration.
Yeah, I guess you could place you can place reconsideration on a future agenda.
Mayor, before we make any additional motions, would the city be required to host another public hearing as part of that? Which would then provide notice requirements that we would not be able to meet by the meeting in 14 days.
Right, so I think the motion, it should be held separately from another improvement hearing. I think the future motion would be just to reconsider the issue and hold a future improvement hearing, but I don't think there should be another improvement hearing scheduled because the vote at this point has failed. So you can't have an improvement hearing on an improvement that is not passed. I mean, I would not recommend that the city spend the time and money to notify another improvement hearing when we're not certain that the council's moving forward with this project at this point, so.
Will the words be then to reconsider this then for our next council meeting?
I think it would have to be reconsideration of
This very resolution ordering
the
via the words that are.
project, but not the improvement hearing. It would basically be kind of taking one step back and having a hearing similar to the one that you held previously, not this improvement hearing, but the previous hearing. Discussion of the scope of the project, and then if there's a reconsideration on the improvement, then I would, at that point, I'd recommend you notice the improvement hearing again and move forward, but I don't think you can re-notice the improvement hearing for the next meeting.
Because we won't meet the timeline.
Right, and because
So then that puts us out into
I
March.
mean, I think there would also have to be at this, just a discussion about the assessment policy, because there's clearly not agreement on that, and you have to have that going forward for future projects, so.
Well, three of us agree on it, and obviously Councilmember Gady's not present, but she was part of that.
Vote.
vote.
With,
Both of you had.
with the lack of certainty from staff, I would recommend the council not make any additional motions, and staff would research procedurally what would be required in the council. As Dave mentioned, should probably take a bigger global view of funding for pavement management. if that's going to be the case moving forward.
Is there, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
is there another option of moving forward? Having a vote on the construction moving forward, you don't have to do the notice. If we aren't doing the special assessment, we could do that next meeting.
So that's correct.
But-
So
But that doesn't meet our policy for what we put in place.
that's true, but you're not ordering the assessment tonight. You're ordering the
Right?
improvement.
This is the improvement. This is not the assessment.
Correct, but there is a statute that says you need the 4/5 vote simply to order the improvement, not just to order the assessment. So tonight you're not ordering the assessment. You could order the improvement tonight and then have a future discussion about whether you're gonna order the assessment. That kicks the can down the road. It doesn't necessarily completely solve your problem, but you're still gonna have a discussion about whether the assessment should be assessed, but you would have the improvement ordered, and so the project would be, Going
Moving ahead,
forward.
proceeding.
it'd be a question of how it gets paid for.
I think that's fair.
Somebody more skilled than me want to wordsmith that?
That's what I was trying to
You
get out,
you
but
go ahead. You're against it, so I feel you should make the motion.
Madam Mayor, I move to continue the work on the project. To have a meeting at a later date for the special assessments.
But that's not referencing any of this project. Yes, Adam?
Mayor, if there's any interest from the council, certain members of having any assessment in the future, the resolution needs to be adopted as is, which can allow the project to move forward, but doesn't set in stone that there would be an assessment. But it sets in stone that there's the opportunity for one to be placed, if that makes sense.
Which is how,
This resolution is
how it
following
was written.
state statute verbiage very closely so that an assessment can be used as a revenue source at a future date, but it does not set that in stone
Right.
that the council has to. That's where the assessment policy
comes
and
into
future
play.
council discussions would come in.
So what this said is what we all assume. It's moving that project forward, keeping our timeline. It doesn't talk about exactly what they're being charged. We shared that with the residents that the current policy is 1,092.
Yes, I mean, this step was completely unnecessary in the instance where the city had no assessment, so we could have saved a significant amount of money and time if there was interest in not assessing people. But we are following procedure and policy and statute to be able to do what council has directed us to do up to this point.
I agree. And yes, we held an open house. We paid for staff. If they weren't going to be charged, then we wouldn't have done any of that. We would have just went ahead and done the road.
Correct.
I thought that's what I was doing last time. I'm sorry.
All right, so so are you willing to change your, is that what you're saying, Ryan? So if this continues to move forward, is that,
I'm perfectly happy to wordsmith a resolution that will allow the work to continue and not determine special assessments at this time.
The resolution as written does
follows.
just that. It doesn't say that an assessment has to be placed or will be placed on any of the residents in these neighborhoods.
So
Is that correct, Dave?
That is correct,
Just
but
adopting this resolution does not put in stone an assessment at a future date.
it does not. It allows the possibility of an assessment. It does not require a future assessment. You can order the improvement with a 4/5 vote, which would allow for a future assessment, but it would not require a future assessment.
Mayor, that's determined on the schedule that Ron presented at a later council meeting date after the project's completed.
Right.
That's when the assessment.
that's when the
is
assessment comes in and determine it then.
so here's what I will say. I would like to have a discussion as a council before then about how that process works. I believe, since I'm the one that prevailed, that I do have the ability to reconsider within the same meeting. Is
Okay.
that fair?
That's correct.
That's
The
correct.
prevailing side can bring a motion to reconsider
that's
at the
why-
same meeting.
Okay, then I will move to reconsider the resolution 2023-10.
Want to read the whole thing?
I think I have to do a motion to reconsider first and then we can do it.
Is that right?
That is right.
So you're making a motion?
So I made a motion to reconsider.
Okay.
I would need a second.
Second. Sorry, second.
Motion by Ryan, seconded by Jeff to reconsider item 4.1 under the 2023 street renewal project. Is there any discussion? We've had a lot of discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion passes.
Madam Mayor, I will move to adopt resolution 2023-10, ordering preparation of plans and specifications for the 2023 street renewal project.
I second.
Motion by Ryan, seconded by Jeff. And this would be for the project that was presented to your residents. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. So Ron, and for residents out in the audience, what was presented this evening and the timeline then continues to move this forward. Correct?
Correct.
Right. Thank you. Item 5.1 is the waterfront commons. I'm going to turn this over to our city planner, Dan.
Thank you, Mayor. Steve Fisher from Aero Companies is back tonight to present their proposed development for Outlot C and D Waterfront East, located on the northeast corner of Trunk Highway 101 and County Road 39 interchange. They're seeking approval of a PUD development stage plan, which is for development of the site under the zoning ordinance, and then preliminary and final plat under the subdivision ordinance to create the property. Again, the property is located on that northeast quadrant of the interchange. It's guided for commercial uses by the comprehensive plan and zoned PUD plant unit development district in the mid-2000s as part of a master plan for that entire area east of Highway 101. The most recent being the third edition development plan that had anticipated the entry into the development would feature 4 two-story buildings on either side of 90th Street connected by a skyway over the public right-of-way. Obviously with changes both in the economy, the Great Recession, and commercial development, that plan never materialized. Only the building at the southeast corner of that quadrant basically developed as was originally proposed. The developer's initial proposal was to subdivide the property into 3 lots. They're proposing initial development of lot 1, block 1 at the upper left corner of the parcel, with 2 outlots intended for future development. Based on anticipated traffic that may occur with development of this site and other properties to the north, they are providing additional right-of-way for Quantrell Avenue should a turn lane be needed in the future as development continues in this area. They'll also extend sidewalks along 90th Street to provide connection between Waterfront East back to the city's park and trail system on the west side of the freeway. There are utilities available to the site. It's been determined that the existing water and sewer lines in place were outside of their easement. They were put in place during construction of the Highway 101 interchange. There were a lot of moving parts and the easement was not properly recorded. So the city will compensate the developer for new easement over the lines in place with credit back to the city essentially for the developer's use of the area between the utility pipes and the freeway for stormwater basins. The balance of the property provides for drainage and utility easements at the perimeter of lot 1, block 1 as required by the subdivision ordinance, as well as temporary easements over outlots A and B that would expire when they're final platted and developed. Park dedication requirements for Waterfront East were satisfied when it was initially developed with what was intended to be a private park along the Mississippi River that was later acquired by the city as Carrick's Landing. So no additional park dedication applies to this. And with the developer owning and subdividing the property, that's the current property owner, and then selling lot 1, block 1 to the entity that will own and operate that site. The city attorney's office drafted a development contract related to the subdivision. and then a site improvement performance agreement related to the actual development of the site for execution by those respective entities. That'll occur at closing, with the title company executing all the documents, collecting the fees and securities for the city, and ensuring the plat is recorded. Site plan for lot 1, block 1 features a 7,000 square foot, 7,700 square foot building, with approximately 7,400 square feet of leasable area. There's a drive-through featured on the west side of the building, allowing opportunity for a convenience food to operate it. There's an eye clinic intended to occupy the largest portion of the building on the east side, with access both on the east side of the building and the south. Future phases would include potential convenience food right adjacent to the interchange, as well as another multiple tenant retail building. Those would be subject to future applications for a PUD development stage plan and plat as well. Access to the site is off of Quantrell Avenue and 90th Street. Obviously, the 90th Street requires a U-turn movement to enter, but these roadways have enough capacity to accommodate traffic generated by the development. And then they've sized stormwater basins to accommodate the phase 1 construction, as well as ultimate build out of the property. Signs include a pylon sign at the northwest corner of the property, excuse me. The original planned unit development for Waterfront East had established allowance for signage over the entire development. So we've essentially allocated a freestanding sign to this property within those guidelines. The site plan looking a little closer, they provided perimeter landscaping and depth foundation of building consistent with the requirements of the zoning ordinance. With the initial construction of the building, they'll provide 48 parking stalls. That's sufficient if the building's occupied entirely as a retail use. If the end unit with the drive-through were to become a coffee shop or a convenience food restaurant, there would potentially be a parking issue. If the site is built out entirely as shown on their master plan, there would be 103 stalls, but obviously they're not moving forward with that. And so as to not require additional parking to be constructed at this time, it's proposed that the developer would enter into a deferment agreement with the city that allows the city to require additional parking be provided if in fact there is a demonstrated need in the future, either at the time occupancy is issued for any of the bays within this building, or after a period of time when those businesses operated and you see an increase in demand. Our expectation from experience would be that because the largest tenant is an eye clinic, that's going to have offset hours from a retail or even a coffee shop use within that building. So we're confident that this is a temporary measure that would ultimately work itself out through development of the site. They provided pedestrian access out to Quantrell Avenue to connect to the sidewalks and the development. There will be future sidewalk constructed through Outlot A out to 90th Street as well to improve pedestrian access for the site. They provided a lighting plan showing compliance with the intensity limits established by the zoning ordinance, and have a trash enclosure within the site also that is screened from view of public streets and adjacent rights of way. The building itself, the developer worked between the planning commission meeting and this evening to revise the exterior elevation slightly to increase the amount of brick and glass on the building to comply with the requirements of the zoning ordinance. Again, it's essentially a one-story building with 3 possible tenant bays, 1 known to be occupied at this point. Planning Commission held a public hearing January 3rd to consider the application. Mr. Fisher was present, discussed a number of items related to comments from the Planning Commission about parking and circulation, as well as site details. But otherwise, the Planning Commission had no concerns. There were no comments from the public. So city staff is recommending approval of several actions this evening, including resolution 2023-11 vacating existing easements within the 2 existing outlots, approval of the preliminary and final plat and PUD development stage plan subject to the 15 conditions applicable to lot 1, block 1, approval of resolution 2023-12 approving the development contract, and approval of resolution 2023-13 approving the site improvement performance agreement. We do have a couple details to resolve in those agreements related to specific numbers on the securities, but we've discussed those with the applicant. We'll make those changes finalized before they go to the title company for closing.
Okay, thank you. Does the applicant wish to comment? Okay, thank you. All right, council, questions for staff or for the applicant in regards to this?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Ryan.
I just had a quick question. I know this kind of came up in the planning commission meeting, that there's no sort of delivery alleyway in the back. I know you kind of made the comment that they would take deliveries in the front of the business. If this property owner changed their mind and decided they wanted to put a delivery alley in the back or something there, would that be possible? What's the property to the north there?
So, Mayor, the property is, the building setback 10 feet from the property line. Drive aisles have to be at least 5 feet. Drive aisle would need to be at least 12 feet wide, so that would not be possible unless they acquired additional property from the undeveloped lot to the north.
Okay, but theoretically, that would be possible.
That would be possible.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? Comments? Motions? Oh, can you come up to the podium? Thank you.
Hi, Steve Fisher, 7365 Kirkwood Court, North Maple Grove. One item that we talked about at the planning meeting, and could you pull up the site plan just for phase one, that a little bit tighter so we can see the parking that we removed on the pond on the all lot B? I don't know if we can see that there.
I don't think it shows up. for
It doesn't
sure.
show up on this one because we talked about
Yeah.
it.
You go back to the.
Yeah, it shows
that right
here.
there.
Shows it, yeah.
Maybe I'll just walk over and point what I'm talking about. So.
We-
See the dash lines here?
We can't see, sorry. The audience can see what you're pointing at.
Right.
Explain very.
So,
Okay,
I know planning had a concern about the backing up into that aisle. Originally, all the parking stalls were perpendicular to the private drive. So we angled those and removed the parking stalls that would be on the future lot. I just think maybe that's something we should, I mean, I'll do either or, it doesn't matter to me, but our civil engineer and our architect thought it was kind of foolish not to put those in now, since we widened the drive and we're still making the same motion on both sides of the road. And if we're a little bit short on parking, we'd be willing to add in those stalls. How many are on there, Dan? Is there 5, 6? On that?
About 5.
five.
Yeah, I mean, so if that's something you'd like to discuss and reconsider, we put those in the initial development. To me, it makes more sense to put it in now than later. As a developer, and it just gives us a little bit more of a cushion for parking, and the drive aisle is wide enough, Ron, I mean, for safety and for everything, I think. From a safety standpoint, it's the drive aisle is wide enough, and we were both doing the backing up motion and the same, there's enough queuing, so unless you see something that you wouldn't want to do that, I just thought maybe we could reconsider that, even though the planning commission did vote to remove those.
Mhm.
I didn't want to put them in someday and have somebody come back and say, hey, those aren't supposed to be there. So we'd like to put them in on this first phase, okay?
Mayor,
Yes,
I think with the change to the angle parking, that eliminates a lot of the conflict that would have existed for someone having to make a 90-degree
right.
exit. The drive aisle is also wider than typical, so there is additional maneuvering space in there. And honestly, if you anticipate the traffic circulation to this, it's probably going to be split at least half and half between people that make the U-turn at Quantrell and 90th Street to come back to the south entrance anyway.
To then go to the north.
So
Yeah.
from our perspective, I don't see an issue with constructing those stalls at this point.
And the other positive portion of it is if we construct it now, you're probably gonna have maybe some of the employees, just parking across to leave room for the customers there. So it just kind of alleviates that and makes for better customer parking. on the
I was
side.
gonna say, I could see staff parking on that right side or the north. East corner of that side, because obviously if you put in, as you said, if it's the end user on the west is a shop, then in the point why they wanted the angle on the other side was for their patrons that were coming because they had the door on the side.
Mayor, that's a change to the site plan that can be approved by staff, doesn't require specific direction from the council. So
Okay, so nothing we need to change on our end.
correct.
Okay. With those comments, I would be supportive of him putting those in on that That's where I stand with it. Everyone else.
Agreed.
Agreed, yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments? Otherwise, a motion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Jeff.
make a motion.
Okay.
Motion to adopt resolution 2023-11 vacating existing drainage and utility easements, approve a preliminary plat, final plat and PUD development stage plan for waterfront commons, subject to the stipulation stated as by the findings of fact and decision. Adopt a resolution 2023-12 approving a development contract with Otsego Developments LLC, and adopt resolution 2023-13 approving a site improvement performance agreement with Waterfront Commons. Is that one LLC?
Second. Motion by Jeff, seconded by Brittany. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to item 6.1 is the well house number 4 water treatment improvement project. I'm going to turn this over to Scott from AE2S, and we also have Kurt still, I believe, online. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Let's try and figure out how to roll.
I think
put
it
up.
broke.
Sorry.
The buttons aren't working like usual.
Deactivatable.
Just for me, right?
You got the Bob Barker microphone.
Maybe
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Okay, Madam Mayor, Council, thank you for having me. Want to go over a pretty exciting project and getting a start on water treatment, additional water treatment for Otsego and the residents. So Adam. All right, just a little outline of what I'll go over. Start with a little bit of good news and then go to some of the background, probably not as much fun stuff to go through, and then basically go through what the project entails and the schedule that we're anticipating. Next. All right, so the good news. After a try on the previous round, the second round, we were successful in securing some funding through the congressionally directed spending, approximately $3.4 million towards this project. So yeah, we got a photo there with a few folks, and we had a visitor last month, and so that's really what's getting this going. This is an item that we had on the capital improvement plan already. It had been identified through the 2020 drinking water master plan, and that funding is essentially allowing it to progress a year earlier than we had planned. So next slide. Yeah, so with the master plan, summarizing significantly here, but the main challenges are that as we continue to grow, we'll need more water, but also we want to improve the water quality while we're at it. So hit it again, Adam. This project will really focus on the water quality. So our three main items that we'll be focusing on are the manganese, the radium, and the iron. A little bit of mix between those three. Manganese is aesthetics. So depending on where you're at in the city, if you get any black staining on your fixtures, that would be manganese. It's also more recognized now that there are potential health impacts of manganese. That is not yet a regulatory must do, but it does have a health advisory now. So that's essentially the regulator's way of communicating that a limit is on the way. It's just not here yet. Radium, that is a limit that we do a few different techniques to meet, and depending on which well we're using. Essentially, we don't use the high radium wells for most of the year. During the summer irrigation season is the only time that those come on. As we continue to grow, that will become more challenging. So getting ahead of that and treating for radium is part of what we will be doing with this project. Iron, this is actually the most common aesthetic issue, that if you've got brown staining in any of your fixtures or sidewalks from irrigation, that would be the iron. That one is not a health issue, but it is the most common of the aesthetic issues. So if people are
if you're getting complaints, that's probably the one that you're getting. And so this project will also make improvements there. So go through a couple of maps here. Just in the interest of time, we chose to focus on the manganese maps. So this map has a mix of red and yellow. The red is not necessarily over the health-based advisory, but it's getting close, or it could be over. The yellow is that we're between 75%, 95% of that health-based advisory. And then if there were any green dots, it would be that we were below 75% of the health-based advisory. So this is our current map based on modeling. With the project, when the project is completed, we're able to start utilizing that filtration and the enhanced treatment. With the location of what's currently well house 4, we'll be able to start turning part of that map green. So that the green portion is the portion of the city that we can influence with this initial upgrade. There are actually 4 well houses right now. So this is the first of those. If you hit the next slide, once we get to the well house 3, which is a couple years further on the capital improvement plan, we'll be able to use that water with our near-term water demands to turn the whole map green or yellow, get to a lot better place on manganese. So that's the goal. This is really the first part of getting towards that goal. Next slide. All right, so as I went through, what we're really doing with this project is improving our water quality by removing radium, manganese, and iron. How we are going to do that is to design and install a granular media filtration system. So basically a water filter for all the water that's coming through that well house. There will also be chemical dosing, and then some of the things just for operating the system, a backwash recovery system, and then some of the building improvements that'll go along with that to accommodate it. Next. So the engineering scope that is in front of you in the packet, a few things we'll work on is the regulatory coordination, and then some of the grant coordination with that. Really the first major work that we'll do is pilot testing. You basically go test what happens with this specific blend of water, chemical dosing. That'll help us determine exactly what we need to put into the system to make it work. So this is basically testing it ahead of time so that we're confident that it'll work on the backside. Then we'll go into the actual design phase and the bidding phase. So that if everything continues to go well, the next time you would see me back and discussing this will be when we're asking for authorization to bid the project. And then going into the construction phase, the current contract would go through the bidding phase, and then we would come back once we have acceptable bids and do an amendment to this agreement. Next slide. So just going through it quickly, we're here tonight, February 13th. The piloting phase over the next couple of months, and then going into the design phase and regulatory review with a current target of bidding this a little less than a year from now and getting those bids in so that we can be doing construction in 2024. I would say our startup, we're targeting early 2025. That probably the bigger unknown with that is just materials procurement and some of the supply chain things that are not quite where we would like them to be right now. But that will continue to unfold, and we'll be able to refine that schedule as we move forward. So with that, questions?
Questions for Scott thus far?
Just have one question. This kind of came up in the subcommittee meeting. I did a bad job of asking it, so I'll try a different approach. But the map that we had where it's turning from the different colors to green shows the connection between well house 4 and the east side, or sorry, water tower 4 and the east side. What's the timing of that? Is that between the first phase and second phase, or where does that end up?
Okay, make sure that I've got
This
the
one.
question right. We're talking about the pipeline between the east and the west sides.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and when we did this modeling to generate the maps, we were doing that with that pipeline in place. I would actually ask Ron what the current status on the east-west connection is. That was one of Ron's projects.
Mayor? Yes, right now we're working on getting the easements for the property. We have some temporary easements and some permanent easements along the county state highway in order to place it. Once we have those, plans and specs are about ready to go out for bid, so we'll bring those to the council for your approval and for your review. And then, after that, go out for bids. And, so we're looking at this as a summer job. Probably, we've talked to 2 contractors that do that type of work. A lot of it's going to be directional board because we're going through people's front yards in a lot of these areas along the county road. And also going underneath some roads. So we're expecting it to be completed by the end of the summer.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
That answer.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions thus far? Scott's presentation. Don't think there's any questions.
I think this is one, I'm very pleased. This is a great, it's a lot of money to help us. It's very nice.
Exciting to get you started on this.
I'm still kind of pinching myself that we actually made it through the gauntlet.
The only thing I will say though is Adam's pink shirt in that picture is kind of throwing off the vibe of that day. I think it was pretty. I don't know, maybe it's just the camera or something, but it's very pink. Almost this pink, actually.
He was ready for Valentine's Day.
A little early.
I've got nothing to add to that comment.
Thank you, Scott. This is very nice. This is very helpful.
Thank you.
And yes, and thank you also for being there that day to help explain the project to Amy Klobuchar and her staff that was present. So
Great job. Thank you.
all right.
I think
We have a motion,
I'll go for it.
right?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I would like to move to approve the professional services agreement between the city of Otsego and Advanced Engineering and Environmental Services LLC, also known as AE2S, for the Well House number 4 water treatment improvements projects in the amount of $390,200.
A second.
Motion by Ryan, seconded by Jeff. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, moving on to item 7. City Council reports and updates. Does anyone have anything?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
on this Friday, I will be attending the Elk River Area Chamber of Commerce. They're hosting a sort of a get to know you with all new council members in the area and business leaders. So I'm looking forward to meeting some of the business leaders.
Hopefully it's well attended. This is
I
kind of a new thing that they're doing for
Yeah.
Elk River, so.
Hope it's a lot better than what we did for Zoom.
Yeah.
Seeing everybody on screen.
Yeah.
All right, hey, yeah.
Yep,
So
I'm
have
looking
fun
forward
with
to it.
that.
Yeah.
Good.
Right, does anyone else have anything?
I don't know.
We will move on to staff reports and updates. First item 8.1, schedule city council photos.
Thank you, Mayor. At the last meeting, the council, we attempted to schedule photos for this evening, which did not work. I did check availability of Laura and she is open on February 27th
Okay.
at 6 p.m.
Okay.
That is a council meeting night, so it would be the hour leading up to the regular meeting.
Okay.
Previously, the council did schedule a
I
work
was gonna say,
session that night
you should probably tell everybody that we.
for 5:30, which I would, given photo availability and a staff absence, I would request that the purpose of that meeting on the 27th be changed for council photos rather than council onboarding.
Do we want to, what time did you say? I'm sorry. I'm just-
Laura said the
6
6 p.m.
o'clock.
start would
Okay, yeah.
provide her adequate time to complete the
Okay,
photos.
6 o'clock on the 27th then
yes.
works for me. Obviously.
Do you need us to change what, I mean, we already did call for the other meeting, but we're not doing the onboarding that night.
No,
so
I think,
It's
this
already been
directs-
called for, we're
Yeah.
covered then. Okay,
so
So-
we will, just to be clear, we will post the meeting for 6 o'clock,
6
not
o'clock.
5:30.
yes. Okay. And can you let Councilmember Katie know?
Will do.
Do we
And
need to?
We're meeting here, correct?
Correct.
We don't need to do anything different because we had already called for a special meeting.
Yeah, should we reschedule that one then?
Yes, that's
That's-
8.2. I
That's
would
8.2, that's the next.
uh,
item.
look to March 13th at 5:30.
Read
If
your
that's
packet.
available.
Sorry. Okay. Item 8.2, so schedule special meeting in your.
March 13th at 5:30, if that's an option. Again, that is a normal council evening, so hopefully everyone would be here.
That works for me. Does it work for everyone else?
Works for me.
Does it work for you?
5:30, so the onboarding is moving to, I will call for the special council meeting for the city council onboarding session on March 13th, starting at 5:30.
Second.
Motion by Jessica, seconded by Ryan. Am I here this way? Is there any discussion? Just adding it to my calendar. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item 8.3, discussion on council participation for facility tours.
Thank you, Mayor. The core planning group has been in discussion with representatives from Wold. And as part of the schematic design phase of our city campus projects, one of the upcoming things on the to-do list would be to go on some facility tours. And so looking for input or guidance from the council on if you would like to appoint certain members or if you would like staff to schedule them and provide dates, and whoever can go can go. Just looking for some feedback so that Wold can get those scheduled.
Will these be the same as what we did earlier? When the planning phase, when we were just starting this and all the,
Like
We're on multiple tours.
there would
Yeah.
be multiple tours, possibly even over 2 days. So there would be at least one repeat. City of Fridley would be one that we will revisit.
How many are you anticipating that it would be?
Probably 3 on one day and 2 in another.
Okay,
And this would be during daytime hours. Ideally, time-wise within the next month is what Walt's kind of looking for, so that they're able to keep moving with the schematic portion of the design.
I'm comfortable with either or, if you wanted to assign, or if you want to just provide us dates and times and if we can make it, we can make it.
I think that would, the latter
Given-
option would provide the most flexibility.
Right.
right.
Just wanted to make sure.
Do they not anticipate that you'd be able to do 5 in one day?
We could certainly attempt that. It's not that it's not possible. We did quite a few on the previous tours, so.
That's what I guess why I'm asking if we could.
One of them is local too, so it's maybe something that we would do just on a different day, but Wold likes to be there to take in all of the feedback and
Sure.
the comments
Sure.
from all of the people involved.
5 in one day sounds nice, but when you see Fridley, they did a really good job. So depending on how fast you walk and how fast they talk,
I see.
it's,
How long, so what did you guys plan last time for the tour amount per stop?
Oh, maybe an hour per stop, hour and a half. max.
The other locations we looked at previously, they were more spread out across the metro. I think the list that has been discussed are more adjacent to Otsego.
oh, are they? Okay, good.
So
It-
travel wouldn't,
Reducing travel time
okay.
in this case, so.
I guess I'm with Brittany. I'd like to know when they're happening and if we can make it work. I guess I'd prefer if we could try to condense it to one day, but if it's the option of it's between 2 days and able to see what times that you're going to each of them, and if we can make it, we can make it.
Okay.
I would really like
Somebody-
to be there.
Yeah, I would like to see
So
them,
that's why
so
I
I
think it'd be
just,
good to have-
that's why I was trying to, we could do it into one day. I think that would be.
And if we run into the risk of a quorum, we just notice it, correct?
Correct. We would provide,
He would provide it. We would just.
we would
notice
post
it.
that on the city website that there'd be a potential quorum.
Okay.
And where
So we can invite the public.
they would like to drive to those locations. Sure.
Yes, yes. Okay,
So I'm hearing work with Wold, get some things scheduled and communicate that to the council.
Yes.
And then whoever can make it, if there's more than 2 of you, then we will notice a quorum or a potential quorum and go from there. Okay,
That sound good, everybody?
Yep.
Okay,
fair enough. That's the feedback I needed.
perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will start with updates. Sabrina.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is on. Just quick update, Emergency Services Director will be closing on March 2nd. We've received 11 applications so far. So exciting on that. And then tomorrow we will be posting our Park Maintenance 1 position. And that will close on March 1st. So open just about 2.5 weeks. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam.
Mayor and the rest of the council, I did send out an email this afternoon, a request from the city's audit firm about some employment information. So please check that out and get back to me. And then additionally, city offices are closed next Monday for President's Day. That's all I have.
Thank you. Audra.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing to add.
All right. Dave.
Nothing. Thank you, Mayor.
Dan.
Mayor, in addition to the new commercial development approved this evening, we received application for a coffee shop to be located at the corner of 88th Street and Parish Avenue, County Road 42 on the bank of Elk River property. And we're also expecting an application this week for a second multi-tenant retail building to be located just north of the Aldi site.
Okay. Thank you. Ron.
On Trunk Highway 101, the left-hand turn signals, that will be wrapping up tomorrow. And then the MnDOT is starting down on CASA 36 and be working their way north through 38 and 42 and programming those lights so that they will be on. So I expect within less than 2 weeks, all the lights will be functioning with the left-hand flashing arrows.
So when they're coming out to program them, they're basing it on then, so blinking yellow constantly, but then they'll also have the green turn lane when it's warranted that there's no one potentially present, right? So it will be a timing issue and.
Right, I think they're
conditions.
just looking at, you know, they have all the volumes of all the turns and maybe setting that green arrow even less time than it probably has now because there are the opportunities for people to get through. And it maybe some times of the day because of higher traffic volumes on the county roads, they wouldn't allow the left-hand arrows to work. That's a potential too.
Okay.
I don't know exactly how they're gonna work, but you know, they have those options to program them based on time of day and the amount of traffic.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm excited for those to go in.
Yes.
Because sitting at the red arrow to go onto 101 when there's no traffic doesn't make any sense. All right, thank you. And then Jason Altmans is online this evening.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Sorry I couldn't be there tonight. I had some obligations to be at our Emergency Operations Center tonight. I don't have anything real specific, although I will have a full agenda for Public Safety Commission tomorrow.
Okay. Does anyone have anything for Sergeant Altmans? All right. Thank you for joining us via Zoom.
Thanks, Sarge. Keep
Thank
up
you.
the good work.
All right. If we have nothing else, then a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
There's a Second. Motion by Jeff, seconded by Brittany. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The meeting is ended. Thank you all for attending on Zoom and also in the audience this evening. I'm always afraid.